First, because they're not going away soon enough, the headlines breaking in the administration's 50 running scandals. Boosh. Number 3, Bailout-Gate. The new Warren Commission, well, Harvard law professor Elizabeth Warren's Congressional Oversight Panel, its latest report says that it still can't get straight answers from the Treasury Department about how it has spent the money, in large part because the Treasury Department does not seem to have kept track of how it has spent the money. It actually gets worse. Mr. Paulson's office issued answers to each of Professor Warren's questions. One of the answers begins, quote, "As long as confidence remains low, banks will remain cautious about extending credit, and consumers and businesses will remain cautious about taking on new loans. As confidence returns, Treasury expects to see more credit extended." Then the Treasury answer to another question begins, "While confidence is low, banks will remain cautious about extending credit, and consumers and businesses will remain cautious about taking on new loans. As confidence returns, we expect to see more credit extended." The Treasury Department is in reruns. Number 2, neocon job gate, a 4,600-word denial in the new issue of the National Interest, which sounds like one of those forced confessions from the Lenin show trials, or maybe something out of 1984. Stalin show trials, forgive me. Richard Pearl, who the day after linked Iraq to 9/11 and told the CIA director Iraq has to pay, now writes, "I have been widely but wrongly depicted as deeply involved in the making of administration policy, especially with respect to Iraq. I certainly supported and argued publicly for the decision to remove Saddam, but had I been the architect of that war, our policy would have been very different. About the many mistakes made in Iraq, one thing is certain. They had nothing to do with ideology. They did not draw inspiration from or reflect neoconservative ideas. Also, he's never even heard of Iraq, and he's not even Richard Pearl, and he didn't even write the article." Number 1, Torture-Gate. The story is all too familiar. A citizen of another country is drinking coffee at a cafe in a bustling city center. Before he passes out, he vaguely realizes the coffee has been spiked. The next thing he knows, he's on a private plane being renditioned to another country. He wakes next in a cold cell, and when he tells them he needs medication for diabetes and arthritis and a heart condition, they instead torture him. And they move him from country to country and cell to cell. While at home, his desperate friends and neighbors try to find out what happened to him and how to save his life. Finally, he is tried in an extra-constitutional court where he is permitted only the most perfunctory of defenses. He's convicted on manufactured evidence that he can neither see nor challenge, and he is told he will stay in prison indefinitely. Some alleged terrorist rotting at Gitmo, awaiting the moment that we as a nation come to our senses? No. This is the journey of Emanuel Zeltser of New York. He's a lawyer. The city from which he was kidnapped last March was London. The place he was taken to was in Belarus. And the place in which he languishes to this day is a KGB penal colony. His alleged crimes: economic espionage against Belarus, using false official documents, and possession of illegal drugs. Until he was renditioned, Zeltser had never been in Belarus, and the illegal drugs he was convicted of possessing: his medication for diabetes and arthritis and a heart condition. A private law firm and Amnesty International and our State Department are doing all they can to rescue this New York attorney. And one can only wonder if it has dawned on any of them that the impunity with which the KGB and Belarus did this to this American must, at least in part, have been inspired by what we Americans have done to whoever George Bush's minions have damned well felt like doing it to.